What's better than ribs? Bacon wrapped ribs. If you've never tried this before, you're in for a game-changing treat. Ribs are already delicious, but wrapping them in bacon keeps them juicy, adds incredible smoky richness, and makes them downright irresistible. Today, I'm showing you how easy it is to make bacon-wrapped ribs. Perfectly seasoned, smoked to perfection, and packed with bold flavor. Let's get started. Hi friend, come on in. I'm smoking ribs today. I'm going to do bacon wrapped ribs. I first saw this on the All Things Barbecue YouTube channel and I had to give it a try. We now have this on regular rotation as soon as the weather is nice. I am starting with some unprocessed pork ribs, mostly because they're cheaper. I will need to break these down and get them ready to go. I'm going to say I am not a butcher, but I'm going to show you how to get these prepared. I always feel like this is a good opportunity to not only save money, because this is going to be cheaper, but it's a good way to learn some basic meat processing. And because it's cheaper. And I'm all about cheap. If you flip these over, there's this flap of meat here on the bottom. I'm calling this the bottom. It's the inside, but this needs to be removed. Make sure you save this. It can be cooked up at the same time as the ribs, or you can run it through a meat grinder for ground pork or sausage making. Now, we're going to flip it over and orient ourselves. The key is to try to figure out where the longest rib is, and then you have to cut from there. Maybe you can see it better on the back. It's kind of fatty and meaty, which makes it hard to tell. Once you do find it, push the knife in all the way down. I'm trying to not cut my cookie sheet here, but we're going to just take this all the way across and square it off. If you get stuck because you went crooked, flip it over and go the other way. Since I'm trying to not cut my cookie sheet, I do find that holding it up can be a little easier. This is how it should look. On to the next step. There is a membrane here. I don't know if you can see it, but it lies across the inside surface of the ribs. It needs to come off because it will never render down into something edible. It can be pulled off, but it is slippery. A piece of paper towel can help make gripping it easier. If you opt to skip the paper towel like me, and you get to a point where you feel like it's slipping out of your hands, you can always wrap it around a finger. That sometimes helps. I'm going to go through and clean up any bits of fat. Anything that can be easily pulled off can be removed. A little fat won't hurt because in the grand scheme of things, the bacon is fatty too. You have to decide on how much fat you want in your ribs. For the last bit of cleaning, I don't know if you can tell, but this was cut at an angle, and there's a piece of bone here. I'm going to remove that. That way I don't have some weird half rib thing going on. On the other end, there's a spot where the bones kind of end, and you can just cut that part off to square it up. At this point, I want to just break this down into individual ribs. If you want to smoke a whole rack of ribs, this is your stopping point. Skip ahead to the rub and wrapping if you are wrapping. As for cutting this up into individual ribs, don't be afraid to flip it over to get a better idea of where each rib ends. One side might be easier to see the divisions than the other. I managed to get 12 ribs out of this. This about lines up with the number of slices in a package of bacon. I have found that the thinner sliced bacon works better for this than the thick stuff. I'm going to do a quick cleanup and get some binder. I am using some mustard as the binder to hold my rub onto the ribs. It shouldn't take much mustard, just a thin coating. I have never noticed any mustard taste when using mustard as a binder. You can use barbecue sauce if you prefer. Just make sure it doesn't clash with your final sauce. Time for the rub. I like to do one clean hand, one dirty hand. This is a basic cooking practice. If I were doing an entire rack of ribs, after I had the binder and rub on, I do a 2-2-1 method. 2 hours unwrapped, 2 hours wrapped, 1 hour unwrapped with sauce. That is not today. Today is going to be completely unwrapped and it will just go for about 3 to 4 hours depending on the thickness of the ribs. I am using a sweet and smoky rub. The rub can go on after the bacon if you prefer. It doesn't matter. If I have a little extra rub on the cookie sheet, I try to gather that up with the ribs. The bits I trimmed off, I'll just toss those on the smoker too. They will make a nice little treat. There's actually quite a bit of meat on this, so don't let it go to waste. My rub has brown sugar in it, and sometimes sugar will clump and cause problems. I find sometimes giving it a shake before I start helps break some of them up. It happens, it's just the nature of things. My bacon has been sitting at room temperature for a short period of time. That does help make it a little bit more pliable and easier to wrap with. I have found that the trick is if you can wrap it onto itself on the first wrap, it helps lock the ends in place. You do have to give the bacon a stretch as you wrap it around so that you can get full coverage. And as best I can, I then try to tuck it back under itself at the end. This will help keep it in place. As it shrinks up while it's cooking, it does help lock itself in place. I'm going to go through and wrap up the rest of these. Hey, if you're really enjoying this video and want to see more recipes like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out, and I'd love to have you here for the next one. I am using a pellet smoker. I have it set to 250 because my options are 250 or 300, so we're going with 250. I want to get these placed down in such a way as they are not overcrowded. I want the smoke to be able to reach all the way around each rib. This will be a little tight. If you have a temperature probe, your final temperature should be about 200. 160 is safe, but 200 will be tender. For my pellets, I'm using a flavor blend of paprika and onion. It was on sale. We got it. It's pretty good. I'll show you how these ribs progress. It has been about an hour and a half, and I'm going to flip everything so the bacon can render fairly evenly. I will probably get a probe in one of these thicker ones so that I can start keeping an eye on the temperature. I do have some hot spots, so I want to try to move the ribs around for more even smoking and cooking. It has now been about 3 hours. These are looking good. I'm going to get this probe out since they're at the right temperature. I'm going to get these flipped over and get a little sauce on them. They smell really good. I want to turn the temperature down not only because they're at the right temperature, but I also don't want to burn the sauce when I put it on. These are at a really good point. The bacon looks like it's nicely rendered right now. I have some barbecue sauce with a little bit of water mixed in, just so it can be spread a little easier. I'm going to give this another 10 minutes or so before flipping to get some sauce on the other side. The sauce can be skipped if you want to sauce them up on the plate later. This is how they turned out. They are amazing. Definitely give these a try. Add them to your rotation if you're looking to zip up your ribs a little bit. We thought they were amazing. I have a recipe for baked beans if you're interested. Let me know if you gave these a try and what you thought of them. And thanks for watching.